So part 3 of the true story of Nicholas Smith and Phoebe Snedker. We ended part 2 with me flying back home because work and just trying to figure out a way to maybe sell the house that I'd just moved into. I wasn't overly sure of things like partner visas at the time, but I knew I just had to be near her. But during that time after I came back, still lots and lots of pictures and videos and video calls every day, just to tell each other how much we loved each other, how much we missed each other, what we've been up to. There's a picture of me at work. The time difference always meant just as I was getting up. Sometimes Phoebe was just on her way out. There's a picture of Phoebe and Roisin at the rodeo. I think just as I was getting up in the morning, and lots more calls and pictures and videos. Until Phoebe called me to tell me, and I remember very well, I was sat in Tesco car park with my friend Chris when Phoebe told me that she was going to move over here for a while. And I don't think I've ever been so happy. It was the solution that we needed to the problem that we'd had, and yeah, we definitely celebrated that night quite a lot. And it was only a few weeks until Phoebe came over. She popped to Bali just before, and then finally she flew over. And this was the last picture message she sent. 17 hours we'll be together, of which I remember not sleeping the night before, and I'd somehow missed my timings. And long story short, it just meant that there's a lot of roadworks on the motorway in between my house and Heathrow Airport, which, apologies if anyone from the DVLA or traffic people are listening, but yeah, I definitely did not quite obey the speed limit to get there. But alas, we got there, and that was the first picture of me and Phoebe's in our house together. And then literally a few days later, Phoebe's friend Ella, who was studying up in Liverpool, came down to stay with us for the weekend. So I took them to Bristol so we could have a little look around there. And then a few days after that, I had to go and work up in the northeast of Scotland in a place called Aberdeen, of which Phoebe said she was more than happy to come with, albeit we had to stop off at Liverpool because Ella had left her trainers and her purse at my house. So a tiny bit of a detour of what was about to be a 10-hour drive. So I thought, well, we'll get up nice and early. So that's Phoebe's pretty much in my pyjamas, just pretty much picked her up and just put her in the car. Just so we could get off nice and early. Not the earliest of risers at the best of times, but yeah, we finally got there. And every day when I was working, Phoebe would just hang out in the courtyard, or she'd do a bit of shopping in the lovely little Airbnb that we had in Aberdeen for, it was about 5 days. On the way back on the Thursday night, Phoebe wanted to stop off at Perth in Scotland because she's from Perth in Australia. So we found a cute little Italian place. I'm not quite sure what's going on with my face there, but it's Phoebe's giving me a little kiss on the forehead. And then I perked up, obviously, because I'm with her. And then we got back home and we realised that we were always eating quite a lot of junk food. So we decided to sign up for Gusto or Gusto, whatever you want to call it, not overly sure, but just so we could start eating kind of healthier meals, and just because we were wasting a bit of food. And I actually learned quite a few things. I never knew what a lamb tabbouleh was, so that was exciting. In terms of the housework, I've always been more than happy doing all the cooking, cleaning, ironing, washing, but Phoebe was obviously getting involved as well and splitting the housework. So I wasn't expecting it because it was my house. She was effectively a guest, I suppose, or a visitor. I don't know. But yeah, she absolutely did more than her fair share of all the work inside the house. We had another trip up to Newcastle, where again I had to work. I was in Newcastle for a few days and down in Durham. And we were staying right next to that stadium just there in the picture, St James's Park, where Newcastle United play their home soccer matches. And I remember we went out for a drink that night, and it was really cold. I think it was snowing a tiny bit, and Phoebe couldn't quite believe that there were girls out in tiny kind of mini dresses, and just the look on her face was just a bit, are they not cold? It's like, yeah, people are cold. They're a little bit tougher up north though, but we managed to find some nice warm places. That's a little cocktail bar just around the corner from the hotel where I always stay in Durham. It's Phoebe's in the Nando's around the corner from where I always stay in Durham. On the last day, I was working with Barrett Holmes on a site called The Drive, and just round the corner from there are the Botanical Gardens in Durham, of which Phoebe's had a morning of just kind of walking around there until I picked her back up in the town centre that afternoon. And she said, my nan kind of lives pretty much on the way home, if it's possible to go and see her. I was like, absolutely, of course. So we headed out on the drive down to Naseby, which pretty much was about halfway home, to be fair, to go and see her grandma, who cared for the lady who owned Naseby Hall. And Phoebe's grandma, Valerie, lives in a little kind of cottage next door, but the place is absolutely incredible. So we got there, we knocked on the door, and no one there. So we thought, well, we'll just wait for half an hour or so, and still no one there, until Valerie's neighbours come out and said, yeah, no, Valerie's, she's at choir practice tonight. I was like, oh, is she normally quite busy? She's like, no, just Thursday night, she's at choir practice. I'm like, good. But amazingly, we had a cup of tea and some biscuits with Valerie's neighbours and said, listen, she's normally free on a Saturday, so by all means, come back in a couple of days and you can get to surprise her again. I'm like, okay, absolutely fine. So 3 days later, we head back up to Naseby on the Saturday, and we go up to knock on Valerie's door. And amazingly, she was actually in this time. Phoebe told Valerie that I was a massive history fan, so Valerie showed us around Naseby Hall, and it's just the most incredible place, to the point where the Queen Mother and our current Queen came to visit, and I believe 1930-ish, judging by that picture. But either ways, we spent the whole morning with Valerie before she had to pop out for an evening meal. We stopped off in a pub, hilariously, called the Royal Oak, which is the name of the pub of where me and Phoebe first met in Swindon, just because Phoebe had gotten to know the young couple that run it, so we stayed there and kind of caught up with them for a bit before we stopped off at a place called Molly's Diner in Oxford, where absolutely perfect. You can have a margarita and do some colouring in while you're waiting for your dinner. I mean, what more could you want from life? If you're Phoebe's, at least. And then back home, it's a picture of Phoebe just kind of hanging out with those glasses that apparently help your eyes when you're looking at things. And it's a picture of Phoebe's with Brucey, which is a beautiful neighbour's dog that Phoebe's would look after sometimes, particularly if they're at work, and sometimes I'd be away at work as well. So there's a picture of me and Sean, who I was with the first night that I met Phoebe's, with us pulling hilariously stupid faces. And then just to shirk some of the kind of financial responsibilities, shirk the right word? To absorb some of the financial responsibilities of living, I guess. Phoebe went and got an office job at Mercedes-Benz, a 9 to 5, which she never struggled at all getting up for work. Maybe sometimes. But she made some amazing friends there, one of them being Maddie. That's those guys just outside Long's Bar in Swindon. And I thought, as Phoebe's had made a few friends, and I hadn't had a housewarming party for my brand new home, and hadn't really had a welcome to the UK party for Phoebe, so we decided on having a kind of a joint kind of homecoming, housewarming kind of party. I don't know why, I decided on a Mexican theme. I thought it'd be a good idea, and it's quite easy to make fajitas and buy some hilarious hats on eBay if you look hard enough, so it's just a chance for me to hang out with some of Phoebe's friends, and for her to meet some of my friends, and we just all kind of chilled out, and it was a really nice evening. I remember I went to bed about 3 o'clock. I think Phoebe was still up with my neighbour Ree until about 7:30 or so in the morning, but hopefully she had a good time. And then a little while after that, Phoebe's wasn't a huge fan of the 9 to 5, so she got a job at the King's Hotel in Old Town in Swindon, round the corner from when we first met, next door to a bar that I helped build and I managed for about 2 years or so. So it was lovely to see her in the Old Town, where I'd spent about 10 or so years of my life, watching her become a cocktail bartender, which is harder work than you think it is, particularly in a town like Swindon. But when we weren't working, when we were around together, we'd always hang out with each other as much as possible. That's us in the Jovial Monk, a pub just round the corner from my house. That's us in a bar called the Eternal Optimist in Old Town, after we'd been for a little tapas meal on a Saturday night. Obviously, I knew that Phoebe was always a little bit homesick and she loved being around people and having fun. So when we got invited to my friend Sam's birthday party, obviously Phoebe came with, and we had a nice little night there. On Sundays, we'd often go for lunch, and there is a hilariously named pub just round the corner from my mum and dad's house, where I grew up, which Phoebe thought was absolutely hilarious. And times when I was around, I'd always try and get Phoebe involved in all the things that I like doing. So I took her to Broome Manor Golf Club, where I spent lots and lots of hours in my life just hitting balls and playing golf. And after a short lesson, turns out Phoebe is actually really good at golf. So maybe in the future we can actually have a round together. Who knows? And then in August, Phoebe went out to Canada to go and spend a bit of time with her brother. They went to a festival of which Phoebe says she doesn't remember a huge amount of, but I'm glad she had a good time. And then there was a day where I had to go and work in London, and so we met up after I'd finished work. That's Phoebe's, meditating in Hyde Park before we went to one of my favourite bars called the German Gymnasium. That's us just out the front. That's us just inside, having a wee cocktail. Honestly, it's just the coolest bar. And then we went a bit artsy craftsy and went to a place called, what is it? Shop Work Do, I believe it's called, where it was customise your own pineapple night, and that's Phoebe's really concentrating on making a pineapple look absolutely artsy craftsy. Other events we go to, Sean's wedding, the guy I was with the night we met Phoebe's up in London, of which annoyingly I had to kind of duck out early that night, so I had to shoot up north for work, but we'd always try and get out the house and do stuff. That's Phoebe's enjoying a dessert in Casper's in Swindon town centre. Always like to have a little lazy lie-in, of which, I mean, if you've met Phoebe's before, you know how much she loves a nap, but those lovely nails. We'd always go out and do stuff. That's Phoebe's in a chicken place after we were trying to sort out a British passport with a weird kind of look in her eye. We went to Longleat Safari Park with our neighbours from next door. Absolutely fun day out. For my birthday, Phoebe's got us tickets to go and see John Mayer, one of my favourite musicians, at the O2. That's us just inside the O2, and us sat down. Absolutely amazing gig. I think we went for a little TGI's just before. There was a theme park fun fair thing in Swindon, of which Phoebe's took me to, and I've never been to a fun fair. I don't really like the idea of being spun around, or heights and being thrown around and all the rest of it. But yeah, we were on these teacup things that were going really, really fast, and the guy running it kept spinning us around, and I had to kind of shout at him to stop because I was scared, and I thought I was going to be sick, and Phoebe just thought that was absolutely hilarious, obviously. About a week or so before Phoebe wanted to head back for her 21st birthday, we went to the bonfire nights at Lydia Park with Maddie, one of Phoebe's work friends from Mercedes, and went with her family. And then that night we went to the Tawny Owl in Swindon just to have a couple of drinks and have a bit of a laugh. That's a picture in the Royal Oak of the exact spot where we first met. That's one of my favourite pictures of us. Just before Phoebe decided to fly back for her big birthday party, we went out and had a night out in Bath, where again, I can't drink that much, so I remember being quite drunk. Remember we ended up having dinner in the Cozy Club. That's just a picture of us having a little smooch just before dinner came. And then just before Phoebe flew back, we stopped in again at Naseby to go and see her grandma. We stayed there for the night and then got Phoebe back to Stansted Airport to fly home. Her mum had very generously paid for Phoebe to get back for her 21st. But we just wanted to spend as much time with each other as possible before she had to get out, because again, I wasn't overly sure the next time I could get out and see her. And I had the most amazing time having her in my house. It felt like it was our house, and I was happy. And same with any other time that I'm with her. The rest of the world just doesn't exist. Nothing else really seems important when I'm with her. And for those kind of 7 months that we were living together, yeah, it was one of the happiest times of my life. But true to form, Phoebes was a tiny bit late for her flight. She asked the guys on the desk, what's the latest time I can kind of get through the gates? And they said this time. She's like, all right, well, I'll go at that time. And then just as we said our goodbyes, I stopped off in a service station just around the corner, just to, yeah, I don't know what I was doing, but Phoebes' mum rang and said, where is she? I said, she's getting on the plane. She's like, the airline have just called saying she's got 5 minutes to get on the plane, otherwise they're going to leave without her. I was like, oh, God. She said, like, try and get in touch with her. I was like, well, if you're trying to call her, there's no difference I can do. And then Phoebes' mum rang back a few minutes later and said, it's okay. She's on the plane. Which I was kind of thinking, like, well, I know Phoebe's really looking forward to her 21st birthday in Australia. It's a massive, massive thing with speeches and everything else. It's a little bit different to the UK, where we might just go out and have a few drinks. But Phoebe's managed to get out, and she was there for a few days before her 21st, and there's one of the pictures of her happy and being back at her mum's, and I felt so empty, the fact that I didn't get a chance to go out there and be part of those celebrations, because she means everything to me. And I want to be there for her birthdays, and even now we still hadn't spent one Christmas together yet, and it looked like we weren't going to again.